Welcome, everyone. If everyone can please have a seat, we'd appreciate it. Testing. Can you hear me or no? Okay. Testing, 1, 2, 3, testing. You can hear me? Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, if I could just have your attention, please. We're going to be starting in just a few moments. If everyone can please have a seat, we'd appreciate it. In just a moment or two, I'm going to be doing the ancient ritual of Kriya with the family, with the immediate blood relatives. Before we begin our service, we just ask if you have a cell phone, if you could please either put the cell phone on the vibrate mode or on the silent mode, we would appreciate it. Thank you. And services for Susan Piver will be officiated by Chaplain Judy Hunt from Temple Beth Zion. Thank you.
Sim shalom, sim shalom, sim shalom, tova uvracha, sim shalom, sim shalom, sim shalom, tova uvracha, chen v'chesed v'rachamim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael amecha. Sim shalom, sim shalom. May God grant peace, goodness, and blessing, grace, kindness, and mercy to us and to all our people. We're here to celebrate the life of our beloved Susan Piver. For 86 years, we were privileged to have with us a woman who devoted her life to her family, to serving others, a woman whose life was full of tikkun olam, making the world a better place. She was a remarkable woman, a trailblazer, a timeless advocate for the underprivileged, a dog lover, a theater lover, and a mensch, a good person. The 23rd Psalm is a scripture which is sacred to people of many faith traditions. No other psalm is as inseparable from our experience of grief and mourning as the 23rd Psalm. And one simple phrase so emotionally profound is the reason. Ki ata imadi, which means, for thou art with me. To arrive at those words after passing through the valley of the shadow of death is to know that God contains us and supports us, comforts and cares for us. The 23rd Psalm does not make promises that cannot be kept. It doesn't promise the end of all evil, the eradication of suffering and pain, sunshine instead of shadows. It makes but one promise, only this: you are not alone. You'll find the 23rd Psalm in your leaflet. Please join me in reciting it now. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. So as I just mentioned, and you might all know, Susan was a great dog lover. Her compassion for others was not limited to people. And the poet, Mary Oliver, has written a book called Dog Songs, and it is my great pleasure to invite Susan's nephew, Dr. Jeffrey Myers, to read Luke, one of the poems from that book.
Well, I'd like to say my condolences to the Piver family and all friends here, and thank you for the honor, the opportunity to present this poem on behalf of Susan, who was such a dog lover. I really think Susan was an amazing person who really had it all, and not the flashy things, but the things that mattered most. A devoted husband and a fairy tale marriage over many years. We saw that beautiful picture out front of them when they were dating early on. A wonderful family of kids she adored and just took such great care of and loved so much. And you know, grandchildren that see both her and her husband of blessed memory as, you know, their best friends. So this is such a hard time for all of you. But I appreciate your welcoming me, making me a part of it. I'm a big dog lover too, so I will be happy to read this. I even had a dog named Luke once. So I had a dog who loved flowers. Briskly she went through the fields, yet paused for the honeysuckle or the rose. Her dark head and her wet nose touching the face of every one, with its petals of silk, with its fragrance rising into the air where the bees, their bodies heavy with pollen, hovered, and easily she adored every blossom, not in the serious, careful way that we choose the blossom or that blossom, the way we praise or don't praise, the way we love or don't love, but the way we long to be, that happy in the heaven of earth, that wild and that loving.
Susan died on Shabbat, the Sabbath, and not just any Shabbat. She died on Shabbat Shuvah, the Shabbat between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, our high holidays, the holiest Shabbat of the year. There's a belief in Judaism that a person who dies on Shabbat is a tzaddik, a righteous person, and a person who dies during the days of awe, that period between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, is even more so. There was another fierce, brilliant, tiny Jewish lawyer who died on Rosh Hashanah a few years ago. You may have heard of her. Her name was Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Rosemary Trommer wrote a poem called In the Steps of RBG, and I invite Susan's friend and colleague Linda Lang to share it with us now.
In the Steps of RBG by Rosemary Trommer. So let me take one step right now, one step toward respect, and give me strength to take another toward clarity. And though my feet might feel like stones, let me take another step toward justice, and another toward equity, and another toward truth. And though my legs may feel leaden and slow, though someone else may step on my toes, may I inch toward forgiveness. May every step be toward a bridge. Though enough divisiveness. And as I go, may I find joy in the stepping, grace in the edging toward great change. But if there's little joy, let me step anyway. Then take another step, and another, and another. Ruth Bader Ginsburg, Susan Myers Piver, two extraordinary women lawyers, both ahead of their time, who did much to be admired. And I, just a person lucky enough to enjoy a life-changing journey with one of them, my dear friend of 35 years, Susan Piver. I could spend all day up here praising her and talking about the adventures that we had together, both professional and personal, but please allow me to just share a few of them with you. In very different places were Susan and I when we first met back in the early 1990s. Susan was the seasoned in-house lawyer at Children's Hospital of Buffalo. I was a recent law grad who had just been thrown into the job of representing ECMC. I knew not what I was doing. I met Susan because of a lifeline that my then boss, who was now the Honorable Eugene Pickett, who's on the Court of Appeals, and he knew Susan well. How did he know her? He described her to me as the best healthcare lawyer in the city of Buffalo and recommended that I call her. Intimidated though I was, I called her. And for the next 2 years, Susan patiently suffered my calls with grace and unending advice on how to navigate the maze of healthcare law and also the politics of the profession. For one piece of advice she often gave, Susan became famous to me, and that was, Lang, have the meeting before the meeting. Translation, always be prepared. But we never met in person until a few years later at a fundraiser at the Art Gallery for Children's. And I had gotten this picture in my mind from all her sage advice of this woman of tremendous physical stature. And then I came face to face with this diminutive beauty, perfectly dressed, perfectly coiffed, wearing one of her famous trademark brooches. All thoughts of law and politics went out of my head, and I thought, I have to find out where this woman shops and who does her hair. For the many years following, she was my boss as I litigated cases for Children's, and I learned much under her hawkeye guidance. She did not miss a trick or a typo. She then served as a pillar of strength for me and my law partner, Charles Notaro, as we went on to form a series of law firms, one after another, but always under her sage advice. Our curbside consults over the year will be forever in my memory, and one that sticks out is one I'd like to share with you today. I had a physician client that was going through a gender transition, and he came to me saying, there's only 2 boxes on this form I have to fill out, one for male, one for female. What do I do? And I said, I don't know. There was no other box back then. So I called Susan, didn't miss a beat, said, Lang, go with the DNA. And that was just like her, to go right to the heart of a matter, whether it was simple or complex, and just get on with it and solve things for the client. This still makes me smile today, and I suppose it always will. It came to be known to our family, friends, and colleagues that Susan and I could always be found at the town restaurant at 8 o'clock on Friday mornings. We met there for over 20 years. And there we sat sharing, you'll not mistake this meal of Susan, dry toast, poached eggs, and weak tea. Sometimes we were there so long that we were often offered a lunch menu. I'm surprised, really, they didn't charge us rent. And there, over the years, we plotted and planned over lessons we would teach in our healthcare class at DUville, CLE programs that we ran as co-chairs of the Erie County Bar Association for the Health Law Committee, our legendary spa vacations, home renovations of endless moment, and family celebrations and challenges. Well, you get the point. Susan Myers Piver, a force of nature in a velvet glove. She will live forever in my memory and through the beautiful family that Susan and Steve created.
And it's now our privilege to hear from Susan's daughter, Deborah, who will share some thoughts about her mother.
Thank you all for being here today. There's a little bit of deja vu. We were just here. And this makes sense, knowing our parents and their partnership. I shared at our father's service that the word eulogy means to praise, and it is my privilege to represent my family to praise and celebrate Susan Myers Piver. There is a lot to praise. She was a remarkable woman, an accomplished professional, a loving wife and partner, a rock star mother and grandmother, a fierce and loyal friend, an artist, and the smartest person that we ever knew. She was a trailblazer, going to medical school in 1957 at the age of 21, one of only a few women in her class at Temple Medical School. She met our father in anatomy class and thought he was this hot Greek guy. And in spite of the fact that he turned out to be just a nice Jewish boy, she left medical school at the end of her first year to marry him. She was clear and unapologetic about that decision, sharing that none of the professions were welcoming to women, that it was a hostile environment, and even more so for a woman to go to medical school and be married. She and our father made a pact. She would support him during his training, and then she would go back to school. That support, including working as a pharmaceutical researcher, creating medical illustrations for Dad's journal articles, and taking care of our family, was the foundation as we moved across the country while our father continued his medical training, finally arriving and thriving in Buffalo. With 3 children, 13, 11, and 8, she decided against returning to medical school, and in 1973 went to the University of Buffalo Law School. It was a slightly more welcoming atmosphere than her earlier medical school experience. The class was about 20% female. She was one of the few women in law school with children and somehow balanced our family with her classes in a way that we didn't see the hard work and sacrifice. She kept that private. She combined her medical background with her law degree to become a healthcare attorney, initially working as a special prosecutor for Medicaid fraud with the Erie County Department of Health and Social Services. As Vice President of Legal Affairs and General Counsel at Children's Hospital in Buffalo, she was the first in-house hospital counsel in Western New York. In 1995, she went into solo practice, specializing in healthcare law and risk management. She was committed to community work, believing that we have a responsibility to actively help others less fortunate. As a co-founder and vice chair, she was instrumental in bringing Gilda's Club, a community organization for people with cancer, to Western New York. She was the chairperson of Coordinated Care, on the advisory board of Bryland Hospital, and a proud member of Leadership Buffalo. With our dad, she was honored with an AIDS Family Service Unsung Hero Award. There's a saying that how you do anything is how you do everything. Our mother did everything in her life, from her professional and volunteer work to creating our family and home, to her friendships, dogs, golf, with pragmatism and presence, curiosity and care, style and substance. In a family filled with physicians, she was always the first call for advice, including medical. She saw possibilities in problems and approached problem solving like she did a New York Times crossword puzzle, never daunted, knowing there's an elegant answer and that she would find it and record it, often in ink. She saw all of us bigger, braver, better than we saw ourselves, and she helped us move towards that vision with kindness and certainty. And her conviction was so strong that we joined her. There was no problem so big that it couldn't be solved, but we never had to solve it alone. If we got mired in a situation, stuck in the emotion or the confusion, she would remind us to take a bigger perspective, saying, "It'll tell well." She was a fierce advocate in both the legal and the original sense of the word, to add a voice, to support. You wanted our mother on your side. Our mother never did needlepoint, but she liked to threaten to cross-stitch samplers with reminders, including humility is not a virtue, squeamishness is self-indulgent, and the always useful pull up your socks. She loved words. She loved finding and using just the right phrase. She loved literature and stories. She loved beauty and elegance, and you saw it in her clothes, her hair, her home. She loved classical music, golf, and tennis. She loved dogs, and we were never without a dog. And every one of our dogs was a good citizen only because of her. She loved us, her children, grandchildren, family, and friends, fully, deeply, unconditionally. She loved our father. They were together for over 65 years, partners in love and life. Our dad told everyone that the best thing he ever did was marry Susan Myers. He greeted her every morning saying, "There is my beautiful bride." When our father died in May, she described him as her always love. Then she straightened her shoulders and said, "We need to go and kiss him goodbye because we're not wimps." Poetry and pragmatism, she prized them both. So I will use her poetic words to conclude. Subes, you are our always love, always. You tell well. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Deborah, Jeffrey, Linda, for sharing those words with us. It's not an easy thing to do, and we're really grateful that you did. What an extraordinary woman she was. She touched so many lives, first and foremost her family, but also a multitude of people and animals and organizations. Her legacy is one that will not be easily or quickly forgotten because she made such an impact on the lives of so many. There's a belief in Judaism that everyone is responsible for a share of tikkun olam, the repair of the world. And it seems to me that Susan Piver, as did Steve, her husband before her, made it her mission to do far more than her share. And the world is a better, brighter place because she lived in it. And so to Deborah, to Bobby and Rob, to Ken and Danielle, to Ryan and Heather, to Matt, Asa, and Sela, to Eugene and Barbara, I offer my sincere condolences. May her memory always be for a blessing. Let's take a few moments for some silent meditation as we reflect on Susan Piver and the impact she had on our lives. In the rising of the sun and in its going down, we remember her. In the blowing of the wind and in the chill of winter, we remember her. In the opening of buds and in the rebirth of spring, we remember her. In the rustling of leaves and in the beauty of autumn, we remember her. In the beginning of the year and when it ends, we remember her. When we are weary and in need of strength, we remember her. When we are lost and sick at heart, we remember her. When we have joys we yearn to share, we remember her. So long as we live, she too shall live, for she is now a part of us as we remember her. In the Jewish tradition, there's a prayer recited at funerals called El Malei Rachamim, which means compassionate God. It asks God to accept the soul of the departed and to grant her eternal peace. Today, it's my great pleasure to invite Susan's nephew, Howie Schreier, to chant this prayer. If you are able, please rise for El Malei Rachamim.
El Malei Rachamim, Shochein Bamromim, Hamtzei Menucha Nechona, Al Kanfei HaShechina, Ba'malot Kedoshim V'Techurim, Kezohar Harakia, Mazchirim. Et nishmat Sarah bat David v'Rachel shehalacha leolama. Bal harachamim yastirei b'seter kenafaya leolamim veyitzror b'tziror chachayim et nishmata Adonai hu nechalata v'tanucha b'shalom al mishkava v'ne'emar Amen.
Compassionate God, eternal Spirit of the universe, grant perfect rest in your sheltering presence to Susan Myers Piver, who has entered eternity. O God of mercy, let her find refuge in your eternal presence, and let her soul be bound up in the bond of everlasting life. God is her inheritance. May she rest in peace, and let us say together, friends, Amen.
If I may ask the pallbearers at this time to please step forward. And for those of you who are going with us in procession to the Forest Lawn Cemetery, we just ask that you put your bright lights and your four-way flashers on. If you are going to the cemetery, if you would like to bring your little trifold photos with you, it would be useful out at the cemetery. And also, after the
this day. Mansions I can wish you, 7 footmen all in red, and calling cards upon a silver tray. But more I cannot wish you than to wish you find your love, your own true love, this day. Standing there, gazing at you, full of the bloom of youth. Standing there, gazing at you with the sheep's eye and the licorice tooth. Music, I can wish you merry music while you're young, and wisdom when your hair has turned to gray. But more I cannot wish you than to wish you find your love, your own true love, this day. With the sheep's eye and the licorice tooth.